The phone shattered the silence at 3:07 a.m., and my grandson's trembling voice said 7, words that sent a chill straight to my soul. "Grandpa, I'm at the police station." He set me up. "My name is Marcus Thorne. For 34 years, I served as a police detective in a major metropolitan area. I thought I'd seen every kind of evil the city had to offer. But that night, the system I once swore to uphold became a weapon aimed at my own family. What I discovered in the following hours would unravel a conspiracy I was never meant to uncover, a web of lies so deep it threatened to swallow everything I held dear. The journey ahead would test every instinct the first possessed, pushing me to confront shadows from my past while fighting for my family's future. My grandson Leo was just 17. His mother, my daughter-in-law Sarah, had remarried a man named David Croft 2 years after. My son passed in a tragic accident that left our family shattered. I never trusted David from the moment Sarah introduced us at a family dinner. He was a slick businessman with political connections, who always seemed to be performing, his smile never quite reaching his cold, calculating eyes. The call was a jumble of tears and panic, the kind of call that freezes your blood. Leo was in a holding cell, accused of assaulting David. He claimed David had struck him first after coming home, drunk, but a friend of David's on the force was processing the arrest and refusing to listen to his side of the story. The desperation in his voice took me back to my earliest days on the force, to victims who felt just as powerless and unheard. I grabbed my coat and my old badge from the wooden box where I kept my retirement mementos. It was retired, but it still carried weight in certain circles. The drive to the 12th precinct was a blur of streetlights and rising dread, each block taking me closer to a confrontation I never imagined facing. Leo was a quiet kid, an artist who spent more time with his sketchbook than causing trouble. The idea of him violently attacking anyone was absurd, contrary to everything I knew about his gentle nature. But I knew better than anyone how easily the truth could be bent behind closed doors, how evidence could disappear and statements could be twisted to serve someone's agenda. This knowledge settled in my stomach like a stone. The precinct smelled exactly the same as I remembered that, the unique blend of stale coffee, floor wax, and faint anxiety that permeates every police station. The desk sergeant was a young woman who barely looked up from her computer screen, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "I'm Marcus Thorne, former detective. My grandson, Leo Evans, was brought in tonight. I need to see him immediately." She sighed, made a quick call, and a moment later a man I knew all too well emerged from the back offices. Sergeant Frank Miller. We'd clashed years ago over multiple cases. He was the kind of cop who believed the rules were suggestions, obstacles to be worked around rather than guidelines to uphold justice. "Well, if it isn't Marcus Thorne," he said, his voice a low rumble that conveyed both recognition and annoyance. "Come to bail out the troublemaker?" His eyes held that familiar challenge. "I'm here to see my grandson." "Frank, now." He led me to his office without another word. On his desk, positioned prominently beside his computer, was a silver-framed photo of him and David Croft on a golf course, both grinning with drinks in their hands. My suspicions locked into place with cold certainty. He played a short clip from a home security camera on his monitor. It showed Leo shoving David, who fell backward onto what appeared to be a rug. The clip ended abruptly. "See? Clear as day. The kid attacked him. Open and shut case. That's an edited file, Frank, and you know it. Where's the rest of the footage? What led up to that moment? What provoked him?" I could feel my blood pressure rising. "This is what we have. Croft is pressing charges. The kid has a history of behavioral issues according to his stepfather. That's a lie and you know it." I stood, my knuckles white on the edge of his desk. "I want to see Leo right now," he conceded with a shrug, leading me down the familiar hallway to the holding cells. When Leo saw me, he stood up quickly, his face a mask of relief and fear. A purple bruise bloomed around his left eye, and a cut on his lower lip was still raw and swollen. My heart cracked seeing him like this, my bright grandson diminished in this cold place. "Grandpa," his voice broke. "I'm here, Leo. I'm getting you out of this." Inside the cell, I hugged him tightly, feeling how he trembled against me. "What happened, son?" "Tell me everything." David came home drunk around 11. He accused me of stealing $500 from his office safe. When I denied it, he slapped me across the face. I just pushed him away to create distance, to get him off me, and he fell against the coffee table. Then he called the police saying, I attacked him. His voice dropped to a terrified whisper. "He's done this before, Grandpa." "Not hitting, but the accusations, the yelling. He always threatens me afterward. Says no one will believe a troubled kid over a respected businessman." I looked at Miller, who waited by the door with exaggerated patience. "You're not spending the night here." I turned back to Leo, my voice firm. "Where was your mom during all this?" "She's on a business trip in Chicago. She gets back tomorrow afternoon," I promised him again, then confronted Miller in the hallway. "My grandson has visible injuries consistent with being struck. Why isn't Croft being questioned about this? Why isn't this in your report?" Mr. Croft stated the injuries were sustained during the arrest when the kid resisted. "Officers, that's a transparent lie. I want a medical examiner to document these injuries now, or my next call is to the district attorney's office to report serious procedural irregularities." He stared me down, his jaw working, but he finally relented. "Fine, I'll call the on-call doc, but it won't change anything." As he walked away to make the call, I pulled out my phone and dialed a number from memory, one I hadn't used in years but knew by heart. A sharp, alert voice answered on the third ring. "Lieutenant Ava Pierce. Ava, it's Marcus Thorne. I need your help. It's about my grandson." She was one of the good ones, relentless and honest to a fault, someone I'd mentored early in her career. She listened without interruption as I quickly outlined the situation. "I'm on duty tonight. I'll be there in 15 minutes to review the procedure." While I waited, trying to appear calm, the main door opened and David Croft walked in, a white bandage visible on his cheek. He saw me and smirked, that arrogant curl of his lip I'd always disliked, before heading straight for Miller's office without a word. Lieutenant Pierce arrived exactly when she said she would, her presence immediately shifting the room's energy. Officers straightened up. The casual chatter died down. "Sergeant Miller, I'm here for a procedural review of an active arrest. I need the complete case file and immediate access to the detainee." Miller tensed visibly, his shoulders tightening. David tried to interject, stepping forward with outstretched hand. "I'm the victim here, Mr. Croft." Pierce cut him off without looking at him. "Wait here." The medical examiner arrived minutes later, a young doctor with earnest eyes who carefully documented Leo's injuries with photographs and measurements. "Consistent with his account," the doctor told Pierce quietly. "The bruising around the eye has the coloration of a blow received approximately 4 to 5 hours ago. The lip injury matches a sharp impact, not sustained during a struggle with officers." Pierce then pulled me aside, her voice low. "The video file's metadata shows it was edited 2 hours ago. The original recording is significantly longer. We need that original to see what really happened. I'd need a warrant to access their home system." But Leo mentioned a neighbor during his initial statement. "A Mrs. Gable. She has security cameras facing their driveway and front yard. Apparently she's quite paranoid about porch pirates and vandalism." Hope, thin and sharp, pierced through the heavy dread I'd been carrying. 43 Willow Lane, I said, remembering the address from visiting Sarah. "I'm on it," Pierce confirmed, already moving toward the door. I stayed with Leo in the cell, trying to offer what comfort I could. He sat on the hard bench, looking younger than his 17 years. "Mom always takes his side," he murmured, not meeting my eyes. "She's so scared to be alone again after Dad died." It broke my heart to hear him say it, but he was right. Sarah had never fully recovered from my son's death, her grief making her vulnerable to someone like David, who offered security at too high a cost. Nearly an hour later, the heavy precinct door opened again. Lieutenant Pierce returned, accompanied by an older woman with a stern gaze that I recognized immediately. District Attorney Helen Cruz, and a petite, elderly woman clutching a tablet. "Computer like a lifeline, Mrs. Gable." Miller's face went pale when he saw them. a sheen of sweat appearing on his forehead. "Sergeant Miller," Da Cruz began, her voice like polished steel, "I need to see the complete case file and that surveillance video immediately." As they disappeared into Miller's office, Pierce came to our cell, a grim satisfaction in her eyes. "We got it." Mrs. Gable had continuous recording from 3 different angles. "We have clear video of David stumbling drunk into the house, and more importantly, we have audio from her porch camera that picked up him threatening Leo through the open window." I felt a surge of vindication, so powerful it nearly buckled my knees. Carter tried to protest his innocence, but Cruz silenced him with a raised hand. "Mr. Croft, I suggest you secure legal counsel immediately." She then turned to Miller, her expression freezing. "You are relieved of duty, effective immediately, pending a full internal investigation. Surrender your badge and weapon to Officer Jenkins. Lieutenant Pierce is assuming command of this precinct until further notice." We walked out of the precinct as the sun was rising, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The cool morning air had never tasted so clean, washing away the staleness of the station. "It's not over, is it?" Leo asked quietly as we settled into my car. "No, son. In many ways, it's just starting at my house. With the doors locked and the world waking up outside, we finally had the conversation we should have had months earlier." He told me about the months of verbal abuse, the escalating threats, the first time David had hit him 3 months ago and then bought him an expensive video game system to keep quiet. The psychological manipulation was as damaging as the physical violence, perhaps more so. The phone rang just as we were finishing breakfast. It was Sarah, her voice hysterical. David had called her. "Dad, what is going on?" He says, "Leo attacked him and you used your influence to force the police to let him go." I explained the situation as calmly as I could, describing the edited video, Mrs. Gable's recordings, the medical evidence, but her disbelief was a solid wall I couldn't penetrate. She arrived at my house an hour later, her face drawn with stress and confusion. And to my shock and anger, David was with her, his arm possessively around her shoulders. "What is he doing here?" I demanded, blocking the doorway. "We need to talk about this as a family," Sarah pleaded, her eyes begging me to understand. David put on his concerned act, the one I now recognized as his public mask. "Marcus, there was a terrible misunderstanding last night. I would never intentionally hurt the boy. We've had our differences, but I care about him." Lieutenant Pierce pulled up then, stepping out of her unmarked car with purposeful strides. "Mr. Croft, I have a warrant to seize all electronic devices from your home, including your security system. The district attorney expects your formal statement this afternoon at 3. David's mask slipped completely, his face twisting with fury. "You meddling old man. You have no idea what you've started." He stormed to his car and left in a spray of gravel. Sarah, finally seeing the determination in Pierce's eyes and the incontrovertible evidence of Leo's bruised face, broke down sobbing. "I need to see those recordings for myself. I need to know the actual truth." The next 2 days passed in a tense calm. David didn't show for his statement. With the a warrant was issued for his arrest. His luxury sedan was found abandoned near the downtown bus station, but there was no record of him purchasing a ticket. On the 3rd day, Sarah decided to go to her house with a patrol escort to gather some clothes and personal items. She never arrived at the house. My phone rang 30 minutes after she'd left my place. David's voice was a venomous snarl, stripped of all pretense. "I have Sarah, if you want to see her alive again. Bring Leo to the old textile mill on River Street. 1 hour. Come alone, no cops, or she pay the price." He hung up before I could respond. I told Leo what was happening, my stomach churning with fear. "I'm going with you," he said immediately, his voice leaving no room for argument. "He has my mom." We drove in heavy silence, the city giving way to industrial decay. I'd slipped my old service weapon into my jacket shoulder holster, a weight I never thought I'd carry again. Ava's text came through as we turned onto River Street. "SWAT and backup teams are en route. ETA 10 minutes. Wait for us. We didn't have 10 minutes. Sarah didn't have 10 minutes. The mill was a decaying skeleton of red brick and broken windows, graffiti covering the walls where windows used to be. I parked a block away, behind an abandoned warehouse. Stay behind me no matter what happens, I ordered Leo, my voice tight. Do exactly what I say. We pushed through a broken door into the cavernous, dark space, our footsteps echoing. Marcus! David's voice bounced off the high ceilings. Over here. And bring the boy. We found them in a clearing between rusted machinery, the air thick with the smell of oil and decay. He held Sarah by the arm, a pistol pressed against her side. Mom! Leo cried out, starting forward. I held him back firmly. Let her go, David. This is between you and me. They have nothing to do with this. You ruined everything. He screamed, spittle flying from his lips. My life, my reputation, my business, all for this worthless brat. He was unraveling before our eyes, his movements jerky and unpredictable. I saw Ava's team moving silently in the shadows between machines, positioning themselves. David noticed the subtle shift in the air, the almost imperceptible sounds. Who's there? He yelled, swinging the gun wildly toward the darkness. Drop the weapon, Croft. Ava commanded from somewhere to our left. You're completely surrounded. There's no way out? Then I have nothing to lose? He snarled and suddenly swung the pistol to aim directly at Leo's chest. I didn't think, didn't calculate. Pure instinct took over. I lunged forward, tackling him around the waist as the gunshot exploded through the building. Impossibly loud. A searing, burning pain tore through my side, but we hit the concrete floor hard, the impact jarring the pistol from his hand. It clattered away into the darkness as officers swarmed from every direction, pulling him off me and securing him in cuffs. The paramedics arrived quickly, patching me up. The bullet had passed cleanly through the fleshy part of my side, painful and bloody but not life-threatening. It was finally, truly over. Sometimes the deepest scars are left not by strangers, but by those who are supposed to protect you, those who wield trust as a weapon. In the weeks that followed, David was charged with kidnapping, aggravated assault, child abuse, attempted murder, and multiple counts of obstruction of justice, a list of crimes that would see him imprisoned for decades. Miller was also convicted on corruption charges and sentenced to 8 years. The district attorney, using our case as a blueprint, instituted the Thorn Protocol, a series of new safeguards against evidence tampering in domestic abuse cases that has since been adopted by 3 neighboring counties. Leo, inspired by the legal process, decided to study pre-law in college. Sarah began the slow, painful process of rebuilding her life, finally free from the shadow of manipulation and fear that David had cast over our family. The darkest nights often birth the strongest resolve, forging in crisis a strength we never knew we possessed. My career in law enforcement had ended years ago, but my purpose felt renewed, sharper than ever. That single, desperate call in the dead of night didn't just save my grandson from a terrible injustice. It ignited a fight for truth and accountability that would outlive us all, changing procedures and potentially saving countless others from similar nightmares. If this story of family, courage, and confronting corruption has resonated with you, your support means everything to us. Please like this video and subscribe to Wines of Thought for more powerful real-life stories. Your engagement helps share these crucial tales with others who might need to hear them, who might find their own courage in someone else's victory.